Hailing from the Jersey Shore and raised as athletes, the Airey Bros have always shared a passion for physical culture, athletic performance, and human optimization, always striving to be the strongest versions of themselves, mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. Along the way, they've met some pretty amazing humans and have had some pretty epic adventures. The intention of Airey Bros Radio is to showcase these amazing people and the impact that they've had on them, and to share tips, tricks, and hacks so that you can win each day, every day.
You're listening to Airey Bros Radio. Be there or be square, because it's all killer, no filler.
This is Mark Cody, and you're listening to Airey Bros Radio. We're about 3 years old now, the program, and he said, Coach, it's amazing how far we've come in this short time, because we've been through a couple different facilities now, and we're renting this facility from the Presbyterian Church, and it's just beautiful. I'd say this year we're finally up and running. You know, we have 26 men on the team and 14 women, and I think we'll probably double both of those numbers next year. We're building it slow and building it strong. What women's wrestling is going to mean to our sport, and I know what it's going to mean to women's wrestling, period. So for them to go out on a limb and be the first ones to start women's wrestling, that really sparked my interest. Bottom line is it comes down to support. That's all I want, is support as far as the way that I run the program. And I want to be the CEO of the program, and I feel like I am here. Yeah, here it's 15-1 in the classroom. So your teacher knows you. He said, a lot of times it was the difference between an A and a B or a B and a C that I built this relationship with the teachers. And he said, and I was happy, he said, Coach, that's probably the best advice you ever gave me. I take Wednesdays off with my teams. If they have something going on in school, and hey, Coach, I'm behind. This is quite a challenge in college too. And I'll say, and you go take care of what you need to take care of.
Coach, I may be dating myself here a little bit, but I have to know, are banana pancakes still your specialty?
Yeah, they are. As a matter of fact, we're having those tomorrow morning.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, we're having those for Christmas Eve.
Nice. Is it still a guaranteed banana in every bite?
Banana in every bite. I go blueberries too. We try to do blueberries. We try to alternate between the two. So, but okay. We experiment quite a bit with pancakes around here, especially with 4 boys.
Yeah. So do you mash up the bananas? Is that the secret to the specialty, to getting a banana in every bite?
Yeah, actually that's right. That's exactly what we do. We mash them up in there and make sure we mix them really, really well. And, once in a while though, we'll put the pancake down first. So we'll ask them what they want. And then when they tell us what they want, we'll actually drop the bananas in, or we'll drop the blueberries in, depending on what they want, so and of course they like to go chocolate chips too, especially my youngest. My 10-year-old loves chocolate chip pancakes. So
heck yeah.
Yeah.
From there, I'd like to know, because I've lived in quite a few different places, and I know you have as well. Yeah. How's Clinton, South Carolina treating you, and where does that rank in terms of some of the locations? I've also spent some time in Oklahoma as well.
Yeah. It's nice. It's a nice small town. It's small town living. It's the smallest town we've ever lived in. There's about 7,000 here. And so it's very convenient, especially, we lived in DC for 8 years, and that was interesting. I live 15 miles from American University. It took me an hour and a half to get there every day. So that'll tell you how day to day went. Usually you couldn't plan more than one thing in a day, where here it's nice to be, Greenville's about 30 miles north of us, and then south 50 miles is Columbia. And there's a lot of nice lakes here. If you love the outdoors, this is a great place. And there's some, Greenville, Spartanburg, they're growing like crazy too. I think a couple of years ago, the figure were there about 300 people a day moving to South Carolina, and most of them were up in that region and in the Charleston region too. So it's just growing like crazy here. They say, in a short time, that Spartanburg and Greenville will be like Atlanta. And it's really, and I've noticed even the last few years when I've gone up there, how crowded it's gotten. We're up there today. I'm doing a clinic up there at Eastside High School for a couple of days, and boy, just to get up there, there's quite a bit of traffic. So,
okay, cool.
Yeah, but it's small town living. It's definitely. I love the weather. I went into practice today. It was 32 degrees. I came out, it was 65. So it's I definitely enjoy that, especially being from upstate New York. Those winters are brutal up there. So. Rob Cole and I have had several of those conversations.
Yeah, so. We've had a couple of Coach Cole's coaching tree on the podcast, and One of those being Damian Hahn, and he's from our home area, and so he's asking him if he likes the winter, because he seems to, whether it's New Jersey or Minnesota and then Cornell and now in Brookings, that he must, not mind the winter that much if he's willing to go to those locations to deal with it.
Yeah. Particularly, I particularly after being in Minnesota, I would think that's probably not too bad, South Dakota. It's funny because I think even when I was in Nebraska, Nebraska was probably the coldest place I'd ever lived. I was there for 12 years, and well, those winters were brutal with the wind blowing and the ice storms that we get there. It was crazy. It was really, of course, the tornadoes in Oklahoma, that was interesting too, particularly when we first got there. Moore had gotten hit in 2011. We got there. 2012 was when Moore got clobbered, and we lived close to there. We lived kind of North Norman, so we had some damage in that tornado too. Nothing like the devastation that they had there, but it was something new for us, because when I'd first gotten there, I was told that living in Norman, you don't have to worry about the tornadoes; they never hit. Well, about a month later, I was carrying both my kids to the neighbor's house because we didn't have a storm cellar, knocking on the door because we were watching TV, and it was a mile from our house where a tornado was hitting right downtown Norman. So we sprinted over there and banged on the door. And needless to say, after that, we bought a tornado shelter. We had it dug into our garage right after that. So, and we'd been down there several times that year and the next year. I remember I'd get phone calls down there, see if we're okay. I remember John Smith calling several times to see if we were okay during the tornadoes. It was interesting. So.
Yeah, I was in Oklahoma at that time as well. I was in Oklahoma City, and I can remember a buddy of mine telling me, like, asking me if I had a storm shelter or whatever. And I was like, no, I'm just renting a place. He's like, well, if worst case, he's like, do you have a tub? I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, worst case, just get in your tub and put your mattress over top of it. I was like, what?
Yeah.
But uniquely, having lived in Southern California, ironically, my two earthquake stories have come from my time living in Oklahoma and not in Southern California.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Have you seen the new Ghostbusters?
I have not.
Movie? Well, it's funny because they mention that in the Ghostbusters movie that, between 2010 and 2016, they talked about the earthquakes that were happening in Oklahoma. It was funny because, but I remember, and this is when we first got in there too. I had a friend of mine and his son in for a recruiting trip, and the whole house was just shaking. It's unbelievable, and it went on for quite a while. It was just unbelievable. Something that, and my wife was pregnant at the time, and the two babies we had the two little boys, the two other little boys sleeping on the floor, and she grabbed a blanket from the bed and covered them both up, and we didn't know what was going on. We had no idea, but it was unreal to go through one of those. And you've been through them in California too, have you?
No, ironically, I was in California for 3 years and never had happened one, and then in Oklahoma it was 2, maybe 3. The one day I was at work, and kind of we were unpacking boxes and stuff. It felt something, and then I looked and I could see my water bottle. It was kind of like vibrating, like Jurassic Park.
Right.
You can see the ripples in it, and then the building started shaking a little bit, and so it's interesting.
Yeah, unreal.
So, Coach, we've mentioned that you lived in some unique places with different weather at each location, and you've coached in some different conditions, right? Building a program at American, Oklahoma, obviously the rich tradition there, and now you're kind of heading 2 programs at Presbyterian. So what's that like? What does your day-to-day look like? Are you on the mat with the team? What's the difference between building this program and some of the other programs you've been a part of?
I think, building here is a lot like American, because when I'd gotten there, they dropped the program and then brought it back. So we didn't have, we started with 4 guys on the team at that point. And of course, here we didn't have any men or women. When I started here, we didn't even have a mat. So, starting from scratch, and we had a warehouse, a small facility that we're working out in at that time without a mat. And then we made a little video and I sent it to Reslite, and they sent a truckload of mats down to us, which was pretty nice. They sent some reconditioned mats down that they were getting ready to use for target practice. So he said, get somebody over here in a truck, get a truck, and we'll send down some mats to you. So that worked out pretty good for us at the beginning. But But I think, it's day to day. It's we go twice. Obviously, the men practice at one time, the women practice another time. All the coaches will be at both practices. So um, the women usually, someone will go at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then the other team will go at 4:30 in the evening, and they'll flip flop. So if you're wrestling at 6:30 in the morning, you usually have the men will be there lifting. If the men are wrestling, then the women will lift in the morning, and then we'll. But evening time, only one of them will practice in the evening. So, but it's worked out pretty good. They're early days, and then they're every days, and for the coaches, they're always 2 a days. So that's interesting. But we're making it work. We're making it work, and we really. I have a young man here named Reed Stewart, and we're about 3 years old now, the program. And he said, Coach, it's amazing how far we've come in this short time, because we've been through a couple of different facilities now, and we're renting this facility from the Presbyterian Church. And it's just beautiful. It's probably as nice as most wrestling rooms I've ever had, everywhere I've coached, and we have a lot of mat space in there, and we bought some weight equipment, and it's worked out pretty good. So it's, we finally, I'd say this year we're finally up and running. We have 26 men on the team and 14 women, and I think we'll probably double both of those numbers next year. We're building it slow and building it strong, because we're trying to bring in the right people too. So, but yeah, day to day, it's busy. It's busy, and then in between the 6 a.m. practice and the 4:30 practice, we're usually in the office, working on recruiting and planning practices. And so it's and fundraising, especially we're getting ready to build a new facility here, and so that we've been in a pretty heavy fundraising campaign, and it's been a lot of fun to again, it's not easy starting from scratch, but it's fun and it's rewarding, and we're starting to see some progress now.
So what was the sell for you, right? You didn't have any mats. You're renting a space from the church. What was the sell from you from, you're at Oklahoma, a Big 12 school, and now you're starting a program from scratch in South Carolina, nonetheless. What kind of was that push for you?
Well, I'd say, I had gotten a call from the athletic director, Danny Sterling, who was here at the time. He's no longer here. But he called and said, we want to start another men's program, and we'd like to start the first women's Division I program. And that told me that, these people are visionaries, and if they want to do that for the sport of wrestling, because I know what women's wrestling is going to mean to our sport, and I know what it's going to mean to women's wrestling, period. So for them to go out on a limb and be the first ones to start women's wrestling, that really sparked my interest. And then, you just never know. I wanted to make sure that I had a very supportive administration. That was what was most important to me. I hold very high standards for the kids that I bring into the program, and I just want support from the administration as far as the way I run the program. So I came here with my wife. This is the first interview they've ever included my wife in, which I was pretty impressed with that. So, because that's a big part of making that decision. That's everything, right? To have your wife here, and not to just go back and just share what you've seen, but to have her actually here and get to meet everybody. So, we met with the president while we were here, and talked about their vision for both programs. And by the time we'd left here, we were sold. And because we really could feel the support, and I think we asked all the right questions, and here we are a few years later, and still feel really good about the decision that we made to come here. But but bottom line is, it comes down to support. That's all I want, is support as far as the way that I run the program, and I want to be the CEO of the program, and I feel like I am here.
You mentioned the athletic director that brought you in that is no longer there.
Yeah.
Did he have a wrestling background? Is there some people in the administration that are wrestlers? Because I think, when you think of the first Division I and the first women's Division I wrestling program, you don't think of it starting up in Clinton, South Carolina. You think of some of these other maybe hotbeds. Where did that originate from?
Well, Mike Moyer got the word that they were thinking about it here. So, as soon as Moyer got on the phone with him, he just did a great job selling it and like Mike has started. How many programs have been started by the Coaches Association? Over 200, and now they're getting several Division I programs started. And I think that it was basically, the talks that went on between the Coaches Association and, of course, Mike Moyer and the AD and the president, and that's what they had told me on our first conversation, that Mr. Moyer had talked about the sport of wrestling, which they did not know much about here. You're absolutely right; they don't know much about wrestling. This part of the country is very different. Although the state of South Carolina, high school wrestling is strong here and getting stronger all the time, and they have some great coaches here. But as far as I think the communities around the state in some of these smaller towns, they really have no idea what it's all about. But we're starting to spark their interest here. I think we've gotten some pretty good crowds to come watch the matches, and most of the time it's their first time coming out. So, but yeah, I'd say that those conversations between them and Mr. Moyer was what really had gotten this thing up and running.
Okay, yeah, Mike's done a tremendous job. I was fortunate back in early 2000s. One of the companies that I worked for was a sponsor of the collegiate duels, so I got to go out to the UNI Dome and spend some time out there, watch some duels, and sling some product and mix some recovery drinks for the wrestlers and stuff. Got to spend some time with Mike, so yeah, he's done a great thing for the sport of wrestling, and will continue to do so.
Yeah, he's first class, and I don't know what we do without Mike Moyer. I do not know what we do in the sport of wrestling without him. I was the president of the Coaches Association my last 2 years at Oklahoma, and I always knew he did a lot, but till that point, I was just blown away by everything he does, and it's every day. This guy, he really needs to get a lot more credit for what he's done for the sport, and it's nice that he's getting inducted into the Hall of Fame this year. It's about time. So
yeah,
he's going to the National Hall of Fame, as you probably know.
Before, you were mentioning that one of your athletes said to you, it actually feels like we have something here, that we have a team. You've only been a team for 3 years. And in the past 2 years, it's been pretty crazy with the state of the world and everything. So when March of 2020 happened, and then, last year with the season, how did you guys kind of keep focused on building this program and not kind of get distracted by everything else that was going on?
Yeah, I think like everybody else, we just, took it day to day. Last year was very challenging. We, as a team, I felt like we had some guys that could do pretty well, going into the conference tournament, had we been prepared for that. But our season was basically 1 month. So first semester, all we did was run. We were a really fast team. I tell you, these kids really learned how to run. We did a lot of sprints and a lot of we just try to be as innovative with the workouts as we possibly could, but nothing's like wrestling, right? So then, January 5th, I think we started regular practice, and then we did a bunch of tri-meets right up to the conference tournament, and that was it, and so shape-wise, we just weren't where we needed to be. So I said, here's what we're going to do, guys. You're going to wrestle the weight that you are. We're not going to do anything as far as bring our weight down. Like I had a 25-pounder 2 years ago that wrestled 41 for me last year, and everybody just moved up and wrestled the weight that they were. We went to the conference tournament and didn't do real well, but it was funny because they had learned a lot, I think, in that time, and really were able to focus on technique. So that was the plan, because we said we get this year back anyway, so let's do this and see how it goes. So it's funny because particularly my 25, that I said, he said, Coach, I really enjoyed this year. And this kid's had a lot of success. He was our outstanding wrestler as a freshman. He was wrestler of the year in South Carolina the last 2 years of his high school career. And he said, but that was just the most fun for me to really break down wrestling and learn a lot more and to continue to grow in the sport. And so now he's back down at 25 for us. He's doing a good job. So, but it's but we just try to do as much to keep them motivated and just kind of go day by day. The women, they did a good job. They did a good job at the conference tournament. We came away from the national tournament with 4 All-Americans. I was missing a returning national champion there, but they handled it real well too. And particularly the women, the short season that they had too, because they started, the school allowed us to start all at the same time. And And so, but we came away with, GPA wise, they did really well. Both teams had over 3.0 GPA, which we were pretty excited about. And so they stayed focused on the academic side, which is very important to me personally as a coach. I want to win the academic championship just as much as I want to win national championships. So,
it'd be with that short season. We've talked to a couple different coaches that seem to be in favor of a 1 semester season.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that still, even with your experience from last year?
Yeah, I'm all for it. I'm all for starting a second semester. I think that for these kids to get grounded academically, for a lot of them freshmen to come in and hit the ground running like we have to, and and to get, like I said, get grounded on the academic side. It's such a grind for them to come in, and to be able to come in and get used to what it's like to be a college student, right? And take first semester to do that. Not to say that we're not going to work out first semester, but not have to do what we do at the extremes that we have to try to get them in shape. So I think that, to give them that semester to get grounded academically, get used to college, get used to Division I wrestling, I think it would be great for us. I think it'd be great for the sport, because that's, that's been a struggle. The academic side has been a struggle for us. But right now, I take Wednesdays off with my teams. If they have something going on in school, and hey, coach, I'm behind. This is quite a challenge in college too. And I'll say, that then you go take care of what you need to take care of, because it's tough. It's just such a grind, But so to answer your question, I'm all for going second semester.
Yeah.
I think it'd be great for the sport, and maybe, have the national tournament, in April, so that we avoid college basketball. And I think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. Speaking to that academic grind that you mentioned at Presbyterian, what are student athletes coming to Presbyterian to study? Are there any specific majors or courseworks that Presbyterian is known for?
We have a great business school. If you're going to go, we have political science, we have education. If you want to be a teacher, great place to come. If you want to go on to medical school, that's what several of my students are looking into. You want to go into dental school, this is a great place to do it from. Really good place with all the sciences and health sciences. And we also have, we have a great pharmacy school here too, that several of the kids go on to. We have a couple kids that want to go on and do pharmacy after this. So it's a great program. So we're just getting ready to start a couple master's programs next year too. So we're excited about that because we don't have a master's program yet here. So,
okay.
So yeah, it's exciting.
Cool. And I think I read another fun fact: 1/3 of the student population is actually part of the athletic program.
Yeah. Mostly athletes. Yeah, it's
very cool.
Yeah, and that's it's a great environment too, because I always would ask kids, how do you like it here? Especially when I first came, I would. It's so small. It's the smallest Division I school in the country. There's between 900 and 1,000 students here, and everybody talks about how they love it. And I think what it is kind of that high school feel where everybody knows everybody, because a lot of the student athletes will come out to support each other in the different events. You'll see, football, wrestling matches. You'll see, baseball players, come in to watch. You'll see, it's really neat. It's really neat how everybody supports each other. And I think that's part of the beauty of a school like this, a smaller college. It was the same thing in American University. When I was there was about 12,000 students there, but everybody absolutely loved it, and they loved the environment, and they loved the small school feel. So it was pretty neat.
So I know you said it's a hard academic school. It's not a pushover because it's got smaller classrooms, but do you think that's more of a push to kind of get someone who might have maybe a JUCO kid, right? Who's having trouble with academics, and that smaller class size, you can kind of pitch that one-on-one. Like, do you use that to your advantage over these big Division I schools where there's like 100 kids in a classroom per se?
Yeah, here it's 15 to 1 in the classroom. So your teacher knows you. And one thing I'm proud of is that a lot of the teachers will tell me how much they enjoy having our kids in class. And part of our, like I said, we hold high standards. Guys, ladies and guys, when you go to class your first day, you're sitting in the front row, and we make sure that they're sitting in the front, and they do. They all go sit in the front, and they really get to know the teachers well. I'm really big on office hours. I'm big on having everybody go to office hours and getting to know their teachers. That's like giving the teacher an apple, right? Because nobody shows up for office hours. So, but that's worked out pretty good for us too. But the small class sizes are a big advantage here for us. Benny Gomez was a junior college guy, and he's done great academically. He's been academic All-American 2 years in a row here, and he did well in junior college too. But he really, I think with him, it's a combination that he studies hard, but he also has a great relationship with the teachers. And they want to see him do well. The teachers here will call the kids if they're not in class just to see what's going on, to see if they're okay. It's a pretty neat environment in that way.
Yeah, I don't think the kids might realize how awesome that is and how important, because I go to UC Denver here, and if you don't go to class, the teachers just mark you absent. It goes right to your grade. There's no debating or where were you or anything like that. And my wrestling coach in college said to me, if you go to every class and you talk to the teacher, you can't fail. And I have kept that close, and I haven't failed any classes using that mantra.
Yeah. Alec Iacovelli, a real close friend of mine's son, he wrestled for us at Oklahoma, and he said, that was the big difference. He transferred there from Tompkins Corton Community College in Ithaca, which is where a lot of the kids go before they go to Cornell, and he came out and wrestled for us, and he said, a lot of times it was the difference between an A and a B or B and a C that I built this relationship with the teachers. And he said, and I was happy, he said, Coach, that's probably the best advice you ever gave me, was to make sure that I built a relationship with the teachers, with the professors. And so, yeah, we're really big on that.
Yeah. And before you stated you wanted academic All-Americans as much as you want athletic All-Americans. Mm-hmm. Is that a hard push for the kids that are maybe there just to wrestle or really focus on the wrestle? And how do you kind of get them to turn that corner and make them realize that that's just as important as getting their hand raised?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I always ask about is their grades, because if they're doing well academically, that's one thing less that you have to worry about outside the wrestling room. So, with all of them, some of them will struggle when they come in, particularly as freshmen, and that's something that we just have to make a push, to try to get them. But we make sure you go to every class here too. Like we push that every day. If I don't show up at work, I'm not going to be around very long, and you got to get used to that right now. So you imagine telling a kid that you have to go to every single class. A lot of kids, I've lost kids because I tell them that. We have a no drug, no drinking policy here, because I say you fight with your body, and this is what I want you to realize, that you have to make sure that you're practicing proper nutrition, and when you go out and wrestle, it's your lifestyle against their lifestyle. So we really push that part of it really hard, and so that a lot of times that'll kind of weed some kids out, but it makes it tough for recruiting, because you'd be surprised how many people aren't willing to pay that price, but it also helps them on the academic side. If they're doing well, and still I want them to go have fun and have that college life, go to parties. You're just going to do it without booze and drugs, and you come in. And I think that's what really helped us out at American. And I think that's, when I got to Oklahoma, I think grade wise too, we, our APR when we got to Oklahoma was a 911. 2 years later is a perfect 1,000. And we remained at a 1,000 the rest of the time. I had 5 guys graduate with their master's degree. All 5 of those guys were all Americans. So, those are big stories that people don't hear, but that's because I'm not letting you slide in the classroom. It's big to me. That's just like when we were at American, we were number 1 in the country the last, or 3 of the last 5 years, we were number 1 in the country. And then we took second a couple of times. I actually announced that we were number 1 one time at American. And, I called Pat Tashi to make sure we're number 1, because it was the highest GPA in the history of academic classroom. He said, well, you know what? Harvard hadn't turned their stuff in yet. So I said, well, geez, I've already announced at the banquet. So sure enough, they turned in, they beat us by a fraction of a point that year. But a lot of that was, we brought in a couple kids. I brought in a kid with a 2.1 GPA that I fought hard to get into American University. And he ended up graduating 3.7 GPA. So, but he went to a really good school, and that's what I had to push, that he went to a good college, or a good high school, and the high school was one of the best private public high schools in the country. So they let him in. They took a chance on him, let him in, and sure enough, he did great for us. So there are a lot of stories like that, but I just always make sure that the school's number one, So that's the first. So to answer your question, that's the first question I'll ask when they come in, because when they come in that wrestling room, I want to put academics on the shelf. I don't want you thinking about school. You come in here, you're going to be focused on what you're doing here. Then when you walk out of here, you put this on the shelf. So I'll make sure that they're keeping everything in order, And I'm telling you, that's the biggest undertaking as a coach. It used to be 20% of what you do is coaching. Now it's about 5% of what you do is coaching. The rest of it is, especially when you're starting from scratch, right? So you want to make sure you have the right, kids that want to be successful as much as you do.
Yeah, you've been a part of some pretty academically challenging universities, both in American and OU, and then now at Presbyterian. They're all sounds like you've got to have your book smarts about you. One of the good things my coach did first day of camp, before classes even started, he broke it down in terms of how much a semester costs, class for class, how much, whether you're paying, your scholarship is paying, or your parents are paying. And he kind of broke it down, month to month, through the semester, week to week, day to day, class to class, and kind of showed you how much, if you weren't going to class, how much money you were wasting each time you missed a class. And so it was pretty easy to see how the money accumulated pretty quickly that you were just throwing out the window if you didn't go to class. So that, I remember that, I'm 45 years old, and I still remember that that was back in 96. And that's a lesson that I learned. And the same thing, I just knew that if I showed up to class, I went to office hours, I built a good relationship with my professors. There was definitely a few times where I went in and pleaded my case and got my, my A- bumped up to an A, or a B+ bumped up to an A, just because I had fostered those relationships with those professors.
Right. And that's great that he was able to point it out to you that way. Matter of fact, I'm going to start doing that.
Yeah.
I think that's a great way to do it, to look at because a lot of them, it's not cheap to go to school here. We have about 3.5 scholarships, and it costs about $54,000 to go to school here. And we have pretty good financial aid packages, but still a lot of the kids are paying, but to point that out to them, that this is hard-earned money, from your parents. And if you're getting a scholarship too, there's a lot of, I always point out to them that there are people working 3 jobs to get through college, or sometimes they're 20 years out before they have their college loans paid off, particularly kids are on scholarship. That what a privilege it is, and just a small percentage of kids get that, so, but that's great.
So talking about the women's program, it's the first Division I school. Women wrestle freestyle. Do you enjoy changing hats, from morning to afternoon, or afternoon to morning? Like, have you had to brush up a little bit more on some of your freestyle, being in the scholastic and the collegiate ranks for so long?
Yeah. Well, actually, last year I was the only coach. So my coach, Tony Deanda, he was here for a year and did a great job. And they took 4th in the country his first year. So everybody started coming after him. So he ended up going to Northern Michigan, where they just started a women's program. So, and that was just before the season started. So I ran both programs, and I would run down to one end of the room, and I have to have practice at the same time. So I'd run down the one end of the room, teach somebody a breakdown. Then I go down to the other end of the room and teach the girls work with a gut wrench or a trap arm or leg lace. So I had to go back and forth but yeah, I've done quite a bit to try to really get up to speed on freestyle. I stayed really active with it all the way through, actually probably all the way through my time at Oklahoma too. We had several people that were wrestling freestyle, not as much at American, the Steve Fittery, Josh Glenn, and Mike Cannon, guys like that. They weren't, we didn't do much freestyle with them because they didn't have much of a freestyle background. So we spent most of the summer just working on collegiate wrestling, which I think probably was a better plan for those guys. But yeah, I've definitely had to keep, and I go online, I go online and look a lot, and I'll look up, a lot of freestyle techniques. I'll go back to my old boss, John Smith, or I'll look up some, I like that Kerry Cola. It's got some really good stuff out there too. I'm not promoting Kerry Cola, but I like his stuff. I'm not promoting any of my enemies out there, but yeah. But I definitely like to go out and just try to keep myself up there, because, it's funny. You talk about technique. If I taught what we did back in the 80s, I'd probably get laughed right out of the room. It's funny how it's still all doubles and singles and duck unders, but it's completely different. Because guys now are, a lot of guys from my era say, "Oh, we were so much tougher back then." Well, maybe we're so much tougher then because we had to maybe fight a little harder because these guys now are so strong, and the technique is just so precise, and it's just so different. It's really, before we're shooting from a mile out and we're doing this and we're getting extended and we're trying to finish from there, and now you're always working on closing the gap and making sure that your setups are perfect, but things that you could get away with before, you really can't get away with as much now. So you got to stay focused, not only freestyle but on the collegiate side too, to be able to keep up with what's going on. Because it really is evolving the sport. It's crazy. But I think that the big thing is how strong everybody is now. I mean, we lifted, but not like they do now. It's just amazing how strong and athletic a lot of the men and women are, as you saw from the Olympics this year on the women's side too. It's just incredible.
But I think it's, depending on who you talk to, some people think, oh, the men should be doing freestyle too. It'll help our, our Olympic development and that sort of stuff. But I think, as like you mentioned, this year particularly, both in the Olympics and having the World Championships in the same year, there was, for our athletes, you definitely saw some crossover from folk style into, the freestyle scene. And, we see cradles, we see arm bars, there's a lot of Americans scoring points with folk style moves in freestyle matches.
Yeah. Look at David Tell in the World Championships, those bar arms. That was really neat to watch him do that. And I had a girl, I didn't get to watch one of his matches it was the Olympics when he's bar arming everybody, but I missed one of his matches. So my girls, it came in and told me that to watch this because it's one of the same bar arms that we work on. So, but it's really neat to watch those techniques, cross over to freestyle. So,
yeah. And Coach, being that the women is the first Division I women's program, are they wrestling NIA schools or are they wrestling other divisions? Who are they competing against right now?
We're going against Division II, mostly Division II, and NAIA and Division III programs. So, we wrestle Emmanuel in a dual meet. We wrestle Limestone right up the road. They're Division II. We wrestle them in a dual meet. Also, our region is mostly all D2 programs except for our region here. So, I think we're of course we're in emerging status right now. So I think once we pick up, I think 20 more programs on the women's side in Division I, I think that's when we're all going to be probably together but I think it's going to snowball now after what happened at Iowa. I think there's going to be you're going to see a lot of programs picking up. So,
and as far as the recruiting with the women and the men, have you noticed since you guys are that first Division I program, even though you're waiting for the status, that women are coming to you looking to wrestle, opposed to guys are looking to be recruited more?
Yeah, I think that is true. There's been a lot of women that reach out to us. As a matter of fact, it's hard to keep up on sometimes. We get a lot that have reached out, particularly this year. We've had a lot reach out to us this year because our girls are starting to have pretty good success. We had 2 girls at the Olympic trials this year. We had a girl at the World Championships, and I think people are seeing that, and I think that's really, helped out as far as people reaching out to us. But yeah, it's overwhelming. It really is, just to try to keep up, because surely we'd love to have them all, but scholarship wise, we only have so much money, and the financial aid packages are good though. But if you have really good grades, you can get most of your school paid for here, which is good. So, and again, that's what we're looking for on that side too. When they let us know that they're interested, that's the first thing we'll ask them about is what kind of a fit is this going to be for them and for us, But we have, like I said, we have 15 right now. We've probably recruited, since I've been here, we've brought in about 30 girls. and some of them transferred out. Some of them just decided they didn't want to wrestle anymore. Because again, this is Division I wrestling, so this is no. When you get in the restroom, it's not a warm and fuzzy place. You're in there, you're working your tail off. So, and a lot of them, I think, felt like they just didn't sign up for that. So, but the girls that are here now, we have a really good foundation of girls that I don't see us losing any of these girls, because they're tough and they work really hard. We have 6 of them that are undefeated. They're just killers. So with that too, with the fact that we have a good foundation, and these girls are all so very nice people. So when we've brought recruits in, I don't think there's anybody that we brought in so far that was not interested in coming if we can get it worked out, just because it's starting to sell itself with the girls that we have in the team, because they're just a great bunch of girls.
And is there cohesion between the men and women's teams? I know you said they practice separately, but do they get along, cheer each other on, maybe getting some workouts in outside of practice and stuff?
Yeah. And the lighter weights will drill together sometimes. There are 6 couples right now on the team, 6 so that's a whole nother, that's
also something you can use for the men for recruiting. Like, hey, we got girls that wrestle, guys.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. And but boy, that's a whole different, because I've had to do some counseling there too. That's something. Yeah. I'm a shade tree psychologist. I'm trying to work through that, but it's interesting. But they all get along really, really well. I mean, the relationships are very solid, so, which is a good thing. So
how does that work with the competition aspect? Are the guys and gals, are they dueling? Like, if you guys have a home match, is it a women's match and a men's match, or are they dueling on separate days? How does that work for you guys?
This year we're all separate. Last year we had 2 home duels where the girls and the guys side by side, and then we had one where we had a round robin. The girls went with 3 teams, and they just had a round robin. They had about they probably had 30 matches at round robin. Then we wrestled right after. We like to try to do that, but sometimes it just doesn't work out. That's been kind of the tough part of it too, because scheduling wise, it's been a little crazy this year, because we're trying to schedule 30 events for the women, and that's been quite a challenge. So, but sometimes we will do that. Sometimes we'll go side by side. But it's funny, the first girls match here, it was just packed. It was really neat, because people were really interested, that they hadn't seen wrestling before. And we only had 2 girls home meets. It was 2 years ago, and we had a great crowd for it. That school did a really good job promoting it. But then, then the next year we had all these plans for a lot of home matches, and it just didn't work out because of COVID. But we have we try to have 5 events at every home meet, right? So to try to bring people in and to try to bring new people in. So, but yeah, it's.
So going to what you said before, where you're being a psychiatrist for some of the couples, and it used to be 20% was devoted to coaching. Now it's 10. What are some of these other hats that you have to wear? I know you said you're coming up with different ideas for the events for the home matches and stuff. What else does running the Presbyterian wrestling program entail?
Mm-hmm. Well, just the fundraising side of it. We're trying to build a 6-mat facility. We want to build the biggest facility in the country, and that's got a pretty big price tag. It's about $4.5 million is what we're trying to build here right now. So that's constant. That's every day we have to do something with fundraising. Recruiting, we probably have to recruit over 100 men and 100 women just to get the numbers that we need to have here to try to be successful. And that's starting to happen for us. But recruiting has just been a huge undertaking here, of course, until you get them on campus. And then once we get them here, everybody that we brought in, even on the men's side this year, same thing, everybody that we brought in really, we have a shot at them. I've gotten 1 phone call from a kid this year so far that told me he's not coming. So that's worked out pretty good. But that's it's quite an undertaking. And then we also, we pay quite a bit for the room that we're in right now. So on top of fundraising for the new wrestling facility that we're trying to build, we're also having to pay the rent for the building over there. And then we pay one of our coaches through our club. We have it's called the Blue Chip Wrestling Club, and we try to get people to donate to that so we can pay coaches. So, it's quite an undertaking. Yeah.
So with all that and having 4 boys, when do you sleep?
Yeah. not very often. Not very much. I'm looking forward to Christmas Day. I'm gonna try to sleep in, but I doubt that's gonna happen either because I have a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old, and they're gonna be up before the first bird poops. They're gonna be up early. So yeah. So
well, talking about the Christmas holiday with the events that unfolded yesterday, are you going to still go to Illinois or to that event in Iowa, or are you going to stay home now?
We're going to try to figure something out. What I didn't want to do, I wanted to make sure that this was a tournament that we rolled into. When I was an American, I used to love to roll right into the Midlands tournament. I thought that was great for us, and I really think that helped our program. So with the women, I was excited about that to roll because we let them off for quite a bit, and I hope that they're all training, but just in case that it hasn't worked out for some of them, I don't want to roll into a dual meet scenario. And it sounds like on the women's side, they're thinking about doing a dual meet tournament instead of a regular tournament. That's one option that I've heard. I mean, we've been going back and forth all day. And then another one that they're thinking about is a tournament. So I'm hoping that it's a tournament format because I just don't think we're ready for big duels yet, right? I think we will be once we get mid-January, but I'd rather just for our individuals, hopefully it's a tournament format. But really disappointed to see that was canceled. That was a real bummer because we're really excited about going, and I think that the teams that were coming on the women's side, I thought were going to be great. They had some other individuals coming in there from other programs I thought would be really great to compete against. But yeah, are you guys hearing anything on the men's side? I know they're trying to do something at Iowa, right? They're trying to do an event in Coralville that they're trying to put together. So,
hopefully they'll get both of those events up and running. It looks like they've got teams for both events. I think a lot of the teams that were already committed to going to Illinois have recommitted to going with what's going on. And then, I saw yesterday that Tom had said that, if whoever was putting on that event in Iowa, that they would support it and be there. So I don't know and that was before I saw some of the other teams had committed to do it, or that they were even up and running with that other event in Illinois. So who knows if Iowa's going to stay in Iowa, they're going to head over to the Midlands or whatnot. But I'm glad to see that they got, hustled and rallied and got something put together, and teams have already committed to it.
Yeah. I wonder if are there COVID issues there right now, or is just this a precautionary? I wonder. I didn't see.
From what I gather, from what I read, it wasn't anything to do with the state or the county or the city. It was Northwestern. It is the university that wanted to do a precautionary measure.
Right. To pull the plug. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Huh.
And Coach, getting back to recruiting, we've talked to some other coaches, and they all talk about winning their state or winning their region. And with South Carolina, wrestling on the come up, what is your strategy when it comes to recruiting? I know you're a JUCO guy. Are you looking at the JUCO ranks? Are you looking all around the East Coast? How are you handling that?
Yeah, we're hitting junior college pretty hard right now. We're also hitting New York and Pennsylvania real hard. Most of the kids that we've had in were from New York and Pennsylvania. I have a couple of kids from Florida that are going to come up and visit. Obviously, some South Carolina kids. We want to try to keep as many of these kids in state as we possibly can. And I think there are some kids. It's funny when you talk to the kids in this state, they'll say, "Well, we're not like Ohio, or we're not like." And I think that's just kind of the perception. I think that's just maybe what they've been told, right? But because there's some really good kids in this state, and there's some kids that are just as good as you'd find in some of those other states. Georgia, we recruit out of Georgia quite a bit. I have a brother and sister here from Georgia. The Burstrand, they're twins, and the sister, she was a national champion, Catherine Grace Burstrand. And she took third in the state on the boys' side, and the brother's a 3-time state champ from there. So it's and Georgia's putting out some good kids now. We have some pretty good kids that we're looking at, there too.
Well, you mentioned New York and Pennsylvania. We got to get you set up because we're originally from Jersey, so we
Yeah,
got to get that pipeline going for you.
I know. Oh, I got to head up that way too. But geez, Rutgers is stealing them all now. The Goodell's just getting all of them. So
yeah, but you got the winter weather going for you. One thing that we always try to talk about on here when we have coaches on, and being from New Jersey is, if we could go back and do it again, we'd be looking at, those warm weather schools like ASU, Cal Poly. I mean, we had Jason Welsh from San Francisco State, NC State. Like, get out of the cold. You don't have to suffer through a winter to be a good wrestler. Like, find those locations where it's nice.
Yeah. I have that conversation with Pat Popolizzo quite often. We just talked about the other day how warm it was, because usually the weather, he's about 4 hours north of me, and it's exactly the same. The same weather that he gets every day. So we're always thinking, God, this is great. Because he's from Albany area originally. So up there, it's upstate New York is just brutal in the wintertime, But
and you said you're the southernmost Division I program, right? Is that correct?
Southernmost D1 program. Yeah. So, yeah. And it is, you can't beat this weather. I mean, my son, we got my 10-year-old, we got him this little crazy car, for Christmas. And I can't wait to see him out in the driveway zipping around, because it's going to be 70 on Christmas. So I can't say it too loud because Santa's bringing it. But so
excellent.
But yeah, it's neat. And I'm a dirt bike guy too. So I got a whole garage full of dirt bikes out here. So that's what we kind of do in our spare time. So we're, there's a lot of places to ride around here. It's fun. I put in, when I first got in here, every state, you have these maps you can bring up and plug in what the best places to ride dirt bikes are. And so I brought up South Carolina. It said Clinton, South Carolina. I was floored. 6 miles outside of town here, we got 60 miles of trails. It's pretty cool. So my son George and I, he's 17 years old, and he and I have gone out there a few times, and it's just awesome. And there's road signs that go all through the woods. So my dream is, though, to get to Colorado and get out that way up. But when I used to go to Colorado Springs, even when I left Oklahoma the year I wasn't coaching, I spent a lot of time in Colorado Springs with Matt Lindland, and right up behind, there's the Antlers Hotel there, right there, and up behind there was some mountain trails up there, and that's kind of a goal of mine to get the dirt bikes on a trail and drive out there and go up, because it was just absolutely beautiful, some of those trails. But
yeah,
pretty cool.
Yeah, it's not as much fun as slicking around in that red dirt down in Oklahoma, is it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, true. Although my neighbors and I, we had a little biker gang. We went, because right behind our house is, we, like I said, we live north of town a little bit, and there were country roads that went on forever, and you didn't see anybody out there, and these guys were great. They were really experienced riders, and it was cool. So I let them go ahead, and make sure if there's any danger up ahead that I behind it. But it was just a lot of fun to be able to do that. Because as a coach, you don't have time to do anything, right?
Yeah.
And if you can go out and turn the key on and go for a ride, that's about all you have time for, especially coaching and having a family too. It's quite a challenge to get any free time. Yeah.
Coach, all your boys wrestle?
No, just my oldest. I think the two younger, my oldest played basketball right up until last year. And he said, or a year before last, he said, "Dad, I want to start wrestling." I was like, he practiced all the time. He was really, really good in basketball. And he just said, I don't like it anymore. I just want to wrestle. And I was like, oh God. So for a whole year, we just drilled. We had a mat in the living room and just drilled. And then he came over and rolled around. We had a little club that we started here and kind of rolled around with those guys. And so 2 weeks ago, he wrestled his first tournament ever. And so we weigh in, and he weighs in at about 150. He's got to wrestle 60 because of the certification. I loaded him up with water when he did the certification, and sure enough, he jumps in there and wrestles 160, and he did a good job. It was a 32-man bracket, and he took third place, which was good for him. And then last weekend he wrestled, but he wrestled his weight. He wrestled 52, and he made it to the finals. So lost in the finals. He got down 8-0, and then second, third period, he's cutting him and taking him down, and he came up short, so he lost 8-10. So,
oh wow,
yeah, but
that's cool.
but he was, but he's excited. He loves it. He absolutely loves it, and he's the only one on the team because Clinton High School does not have a wrestling team. So I called around, and they said, well, in this state, unless there's somebody close and they're in the same class as you are, there are 5 classes in the state, they're not allowed to wrestle for them. So I called the AD at Clinton High. I said, how would you guys like to start wrestling? He said, we'd love to. We'd love to start it here. We've been talking about it for years. I have $25,000 sitting in an account to start wrestling here. I said, let's do it. So I have a buddy of mine who moved out here. Long story short, he moved out here from California just to kind of help me out to volunteer. So now he's volunteering, coaching George, and like I said, George is a one-man team for Clinton High School here. So pretty cool. They started a program. So I told him the Coaches Association would donate a mat to him. And then when somebody heard I did that, somebody in the state here said, forget the Coaches Association, I'm donating a mat. A guy named Dino White, who's a big booster for our program, but he was just excited that they started a program here. So Clinton High has wrestling now. So that's good.
Cool.
Coach, you're starting programs all around, huh?
That's right.
Awesome.
That's right. That's right. That's part of my charge here, you know.
So I'll ask you again, when do you sleep?
Yeah. It's about never, because now I was able to go. It just worked out. I've been able to go watch him the last couple weekends, you know, and I'm holding the phone like this, you know. I can't, and I have never have guys in national finals, have guys all American rounds, have, you know, been a part of a couple teams that were in the hunt for titles. Never been this stressed out as I am when my own son goes out there and wrestles. I cannot believe. I told my wife, I said, I try to eat healthy. I got to clean up my diet, man, because I'm gonna keel over. She goes, you know, you're already eating pretty healthy, you know, but no desserts, no nothing, because it's really unbelievable how stressed out you get when your own son is out there wrestling, you know. And I think that was part of my stress when he said he wanted to start wrestling. I was like, oh my gosh, you know, how am I going to handle this, right? But the thing is, he really loves it, you know. And like, you know, Gil Sanchez, he coached with me at Nebraska, and he lives here in Hilton Head. And I was talking to him about, you know, his first match, and he said, you know, it's life-changing, just life-changing for him. And it really was. The first time he ever went out and competed, and he won his first match, he won like 13-2 against a kid who was pretty seasoned, and he came off, he was just so excited, you know. It's just really neat what this sport does for you, but seeing what it does for your own son, it really is just really amazing. You know, I'm just really happy to be able to share this experience with him. You know, we've always been close, but you know, my other son does cross country, and that's really helped in the transition here, because it was just absolutely brutal picking up from Oklahoma and moving my whole family out here. I mean, that was heart-wrenching. That was really a tough situation, because, you know, they'd grown there a lot of years, and that was their year. You know, we got there, they were, you know, 4 and 5 years old, right? So all their friends, I mean, we got up and left, you know, and they're in high school. And so with Charlie running cross country, and, you know, and George is in track now too. I think that's really, you know, sports helps, you know, it helps with especially when you're kind of uprooted and have to move. And I think it's been great to help them get settled here. So
like running in that humidity. I guess Oklahoma humidity is probably on par with South Carolina.
Yeah, it is. It's about the same weather-wise and everything. It's about on par. So
yeah, you know,
although Oklahoma, of course, the courses there were so flat, you know, in Oklahoma, when they, you know, my little guy. But it's funny because he got serious about it. He kind of dabbled in it, you know. He was kind of in the back of the pack. And then last year they were going to the state tournament, and he said, Dad, yeah, we're going to go down and watch the state. I said, you know, you could run the state tournament if you put a summer in. So sure enough, he puts a summer in, and he wins the conference. He wins the regionals. He's number 1 guy on the team now. He goes from being one of the last guys to number 1 guy. But that's just kind of how it goes, you know. You train, you put some time in, and so he's doing really well, and he loves it. He loves the winning part of it now. So I took him to a national event too. I took him up to Raleigh, North Carolina. Nike sponsors all these cross country events, so I took him up there to run in one of those. So it was pretty cool. It's really neat.
Yeah, Jibby's. I gave up my wrestling career in high school, and then ran Division I cross country and track and field.
Wow.
So I have a little bit more of a background with running. So
yeah.
beautiful thing to hear. And I thought I had a handle on heat and humidity growing up in New Jersey, and then when I got to Oklahoma, I was like, I went to the doctor actually at the end of the summer because I thought there was something wrong with me because I couldn't run. And he's like, no, it's just an Oklahoma summer. You need to get up earlier, get out and run.
I got to get. Yeah, those summers are brutal.
Yeah,
they're absolutely brutal. Yeah, it wasn't bad when I was. It just didn't seem as bad when I was in Stillwater. My place there was. I lived in the first time I was there back in '88, and it didn't matter. Once we left the wrestling room, we'd go out and go swimming every day. We spent all that time in the water. They had this big pond that I don't know if you remember, like guys like Chris Barnes, and I was training with Mike Sheets and Kenny Monday and those guys, and I was just basically there as kind of a grad assistant type of situation, 88, 89. But it was interesting that we didn't, the heat never bothered us, right? And then when you move there, it's a little bit different. You move with like my wife and I moved there in 2000, or I guess it was 99 we had moved there, and holy cow, that's when I really thought, this is brutal. That heat is just takes it right out of you.
It's on another level.
Yeah.
Touched on the culture of wrestling in South Carolina. We even got a fun story about. So do you not get stressed out at cross country meets or basketball games?
Not as bad. It's funny because my kids said the same thing when we walked out, but they were in the stands like this. My wife, she videotaped them too while the matches were going on. And my Henry, my 12-year-old, said, "Hey, Dad, do you get stressed like that when we're running?" I said, "Yeah, of course I do." I didn't want to make him feel like he didn't, wasn't as emotionally into that. And he said, "No, I think it's a little different, Dad, because this was the sport that you did." So he was probably right on the money, but it possibly was, or maybe it was just because it was just the two of them out there competing, right? It's not like cross country. There's a whole, but I love them. I do get pretty stressed watching cross country because I know Charlie looks up and down and said, "How the heck am I going to beat all these guys?" Let alone a little bit easier sometimes to be able to go out there and have to challenge one, but cross country, I love it. I just love going to watch, and it's great because the meets are, you're not there all day, right? You just go and get on the line, and it's really neat. So I come from my family, my brothers are both runners. My brother Dave, my oldest brother, he just finished coaching 85 seasons, and he's still going. That's track, cross country, and indoor track. So he's still coaching in New York, and spent a lot of time out in Eugene, Oregon, both of them, and so they're serious about running. Matt Centrowitz was, I don't know if you know that name. Yeah, he's a really close friend of mine, Matt Senior.
Yeah,
and he talks to the boys all the time about running, and he gives them tips all the time, and it's really neat because they, like I said, they both run track too. So he gets on the phone with them probably every week that they compete, and he has them set a goal, and it's really neat to have that resource to reach out to,
Oh, that's awesome, Coach. We could have a whole other podcast. I have so many more questions now.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Matt's he's at Manhattan right now.
He was at Manhattan. He just left there. Yep, he was at Manhattan. He just said, this was his last year. So I.
Oh, you guys were at American together.
We were at American together.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
And he was my best buddy there. He and I and Papalizio were like this. We go to lunch every day, and we had a really good relationship, and just kept in touch. With a lot of the people from American. What a great group that was. Alan Meltzer, he was our big benefactor there, and we're still in touch with him, and and the ADs that I had when I was there, they were just great. And the AD that's there now, good guy. They're all. I love the fact that program is still thriving. They're still, up and running and doing really well. And have stayed that way every year. And on the academic side, they're doing a really good job there too. But that's support, and that's getting the right kids in, and keeping those things going. That's wonderful.
Very cool. Yeah, I forgot that you guys were at American together. It totally slipped my mind. Yeah.
Oh, we had a great time. What a personality that guy is.
Yeah, he's a character.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's awesome. Every day I just love talking to him. He's nonstop. It's always, I'm in stitches the whole time. It was interesting. I had Randy Lewis come out and do just work with my team for a little bit. And I'd have him come to I had him come to Nebraska too, but those two were both on the 1980 Olympic team. So to sit there and listen to those guys talk about that, I could have sold tickets to that. It just happened to be, hey, we're going to go to lunch with Senowitz, and then they met each other. I was like, oh my gosh, you guys, yeah. It just dawned on me that they were both on that team that didn't get to go to the Olympics. So it was just awesome to listen to him talk about that whole experience. It was really, really neat.
Yeah, I'd love to have a recording of that.
Oh yeah, just to get the perspective on it. Yeah.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and if you want Senowitz on the show, let me know. I can get him hooked up with you.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. He would be. He's great. He's just a lot of fun to talk to. He's got some great stories, and just hearing the relationship between him and his son, it's pretty neat. I don't know if you've read the book that he has put out.
Yep.
Great book. Yeah. It's really good. I love the way that it starts. It's because he used to tell me, he'd take his son out running and he'd make him go back. He wouldn't let him go the whole run with him, and it was really interesting how he handled him coming up through. I think he handled him just perfect, and he didn't force him into anything, which I think was probably a pretty good approach, and still their relationship was really cool because I used to go watch the son run track once in a while with Matt, and just listening to their conversations after, talking about strategy. And I never really realized, and even coming from a track family, I never realized how much strategy goes into a track race,
Oh, yeah.
But just to listen to those two guys talk, it was really neat. It was really neat to hear. And Matt Senowitz set up most of our conditioning on the track for my wrestling team when I was at American.
Cool.
And reverse sprints up the hills. I'm still doing that today. Reverse sprints up the hills that build your hamstrings, and just really neat stuff that he put together for us. So, yeah, I'm big on picking everybody's brain, and he was really great a great resource to be able to do that.
Yeah, and that's another great thing. We'll get into the rapid fire after this, but what you just said right there, we're both, coaches and personal trainers and work with people. And that's always been our philosophy is, we want to go to the people, as a runner. If I want to learn about strength training, I'm going to go to a power lifter, an Olympic weightlifter to learn the techniques. Or if I need to incorporate some gymnastics into my core training, my midline training, I'm going to actually seek out a gymnast. So to hear that you actually, used Matt and picked his brain and are still using things, in your conditioning training that you actually got from a running coach I love hearing that stuff.
Yeah. I love to be able to try to do that, just to give my guys more just a better experience, and make sure that I surely don't want them to get bored, particularly in the conditioning that we're doing at the beginning of the year, or practice every day. You have to plan your practices out. I think it's good to reach out to different people, and practices I try to get them in and out of there an hour and a half, same thing, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours at the most if I can, but although they're challenging, a lot of the stuff that I do is stuff that I stole from different people. If people have trouble getting to a leg, I have something called live on contact. So you'll hit 3 shots, 3 of your best shots. On the 4th one, you'll go live. Right. And I got that from Tommy Ortiz years ago, because when he was coaching Arizona State, I said, my guys just having trouble getting through arms and getting to legs. So try this live on contract drill. And sure enough, it's worked out really good for us, but just little things like that I've actually had conversations with coaches, just asking them for advice, and to be able to go to different sports, because I think if you're sitting in this chair and you think you have all the answers, it's time for you to retire. You have to keep growing and keep evolving with the sport. So, and figuring out ways to do it and think outside the box, so.
Yeah, Coach, there's nothing I love more than talking to college wrestling coaches and just being fired up from the conversation we're having. And I am fired up. This is a great conversation. So I appreciate all the knowledge and information you have shared with us today. When we have our guests on, we do rapid fire. And when we have wrestling coaches on, we have some wrestling specific rapid fire. Then we'll get into the other 4 questions. So my first wrestling rapid fire is if you're a wrestling shoe guy, what is your favorite wrestling shoe of all time? And what are you currently wearing?
Favorite shoe of all time, Cal Sanderson's. They give you a lot of support. Currently wearing some old Nikes but Cal Sanderson's are my favorites. Yep.
Coach, is it stance in motion or stance and motion?
Stance and motion.
Okay.
Yeah, stance and motion.
Is it 25 or 25s?
25.
Okay. Is it states or state?
States in New York, or no, state in New York, states everywhere else.
Okay.
No, that's vice versa. States in New York, state everywhere else. That's right. Okay.
You guys got the coin flip. Top, bottom, neutral, defer. What are you taking?
Defer. If we get choice, if they defer to us, bottom. Always bottom. Got to get that point.
Coach, is there anything in collegiate wrestling, any particular rules or rule sets or things that you would like to see changed?
Step out. I'd love to see a step out when people are backing up and have a step out rule like they do in freestyle. I'd love to see that. I think it would add a lot of excitement to the sport and a lot more forward motion to the sport. Love to have a step out rule in there.
Yeah.
And Coach, I know your wrestling days are behind you, but you're down by 15 seconds in a match and you need 3 points. What are you doing?
Right now or way back then?
Way back then. Way back then, or what are you coaching your athletes to do?
Your go-to shot that you can get with 7 seconds to go in a match. I always tell them we always try to work on our go-to shot that we get with 7, whatever that go-to shot is, right? And it's usually it's never a throw to your back. It's always something solid and something right side up. So probably down by 3. You said down by 3?
Yeah.
Probably double leg and try to capitalize, try to catch some back points off of it. Yeah.
Coach, ropes for warm-ups, yay or nay?
Ropes, climbing ropes?
No, the robes like Iowa State brought back.
Oh,
this year,
robes.
the robes.
I like them. Like them. Yeah. I just saw that. I saw something that little car put out on that, how they'd brought them back out. I thought they were cool. Yeah.
Do you guys do a light for home matches?
No, we don't. We did it at Oklahoma, but we don't here. Yeah. I think I'd like to. I think it's funny because I recruited a kid and his dad's in the light business, and he said I can set up a spotlight for you here. So I think at some point we may end up doing that. So
yeah, I like when the teams do that. We're here in Colorado, so we go to UNC matches, and the one kind of complaint we have is they have all the smoke when the guys run out of the Bears mouth, but then the smoke is like there for the rest of the match. So that can't be good for anyone.
Yeah. Do they do it under spotlight there though?
I don't know if it's a specific spotlight or if it's just the way they dim some of the lights in the gym that gives it kind of like that darker lit feeling.
Oh, okay. Yeah. How far are you guys from there?
About 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's
Not
great.
too far.
Yeah. I love Colorado. I could live there. I could definitely live there. I love it.
Yeah, it's a good spot. It was like 65 today.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
Coach, so on to the normal rapid fire. Are you a coffee drinker?
Yes.
How do you take it? How do you brew it?
Black and I use a Keurig.
Nice. You still dabble with Dunkin' Donuts?
Yes. Yeah. There's one here, but I got to go 20 miles north to get there. So yeah,
wow.
I do go to Dunkin' Donuts, and I got hooked on that when I was at American. Yeah. And I had my first cup of coffee. I don't know if you remember Derek Monsieur.
Yep.
Well, we did a camp in New Orleans, and I was on my way. We were going fishing. And I was exhausted. I didn't drink coffee that time, but I was the designated driver because everybody else in my car was tanked up. So I got behind the wheel and I said, geez, I can't even go anymore. I said, pull over to that truck stop, get a cup of coffee. I drank that coffee and I got to where we went fishing. We went to the Gulf of Mexico, and all day long I'm out there doing this, and the rest of them were sleeping. And I thought it just completely changed my life. So yeah, I love it. Yeah. And I love to go to, when I'm in Colorado, the little booth there that has the coffee.
Dutch Bros.
Dutch Bros. I love Dutch Bros coffee. I love the chocolate. I'll get the latte there, the chocolate, whatever they call it. I don't know.
Mocha.
It's good. Mocha. Yeah. Yep. Dutch Brothers. I love Dutch Brothers.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Coach, I think now that you just mentioned, you're jogging my memory. I have a Rubbermaid bin right here. I'm looking at it, and I have a match from Iowa Public Television. It's Northern Iowa versus Nebraska, and I'm almost positive you're probably on that tape somewhere because it was the year that Matt Linlin was on the team at Nebraska.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah. One of my favorite guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was a hard-working guy. What a story he has to tell. That's really, I just loved. We still have of course, we enjoy a great relationship now. You know, there's not many weeks go by I don't talk to him, but yeah, he was tough. He was a tough guy.
He was
tough. It was just a, national tournament. He gets beat in the first round and ranked number 1, undefeated all year long. And at that time, if you had gotten beat and your guy got beat in the next round, you were out. So we didn't get any points from him, right? And I think we finished 3rd that year. Yeah. And we'd beaten everybody that year. And Coach Newman, he had built up a heck of a program there. I mean, he really did a great recruiting wise. He just did unbelievable. He really brought in a lot of good kids. But Linlin was one of those junior college guys like Rulon Gardner that we got, and they were just what a treat it was to have both those guys on the team at the same time. So it was a lot of fun.
You got one of the Pueller brothers too, right? For years.
Yep. Yeah. We've got one of the Perlers up there who came. Transferred in, and he did a great job for us. Penrith did a great job working with him. He spent a lot of personal time with him, and really, I think that's, and Perler will tell you that he really got him over the top and got him to win that national title. He really spent a lot of time. And Brad was a great coach. That's one guy who I really surprised he's not back into it somewhere. He was just an excellent coach, but he did a great job. He did a great job with all those guys at the time. We used to compete against each other. I had that, like the Brad Bearings and the Tolly Thompsons if we struggled at the lighter weights, I'd tell him, well, geez, thank God for those upper weights. He'd say, shut up, shut your mouth. He'd go off on me. So, or if it was the other way around, he'd give me a hard time too. But that was a good staff. That was a good combination because we worked really hard. And again, I was in charge of the upper weights at that time, and he was a lighter weight guy, and we just really worked hard to try to compete against what's another, which I think helped out the team. Coach Newman was great at that, really letting us kind of work with the guys and work with them all summer. We would do these little camps all over. We go to Colorado too. We go to Grand Junction, and we do these 3-day camps all over. But that gave the guys a little bit of money in their pocket, and also gave them opportunity to train and travel to all these great places. So that's when those teams were really good in those days, because we spent a lot of time together with them. We're both. Well, I was single at the time. He was married, but what a great. That was great. Those were good days.
Yeah, reminiscent.
Yeah,
I love it. Coach, do you have any sort of daily practice or daily rituals that you do on a regular basis to show up as the strongest version of yourself?
Yeah, I have. Well, my wife teaches HIIT workouts, so I do those with her. She'll run the whole team through, and sometimes if she's not, there's a girl named Heather Robertson. And my TV's right up here. I come in the living room here. I'll come usually before or after the morning practice, and I'll get with her for a half hour, and it is brutal. It's HIIT workout that I do with her, and I do it every day. And some days I'll wrestle. If somebody needs a partner, I'll get in and scrap. And some days I feel like I'm 80. Some days I feel like I'm 40, but I'm never, But those are the best to be able to get in there and roll around to. And I lift quite a bit with my son too. But the Heather Robertson workout, check her out, because she's got a whole bunch of HIIT videos, and they're actually perfect for wrestling, because my ladies and guys are doing one of her work. It's a 20-minute brutal workout, and they're doing it every other day right now while they're home. So one day they got to do her, one day they're going to run 2 miles. Next day they do her, next day, and it's the same workout that it's a full body workout. And then they go to their practice, and I give them what they're going to do while they're at practice. So that everybody goes to 2 a day while they're home. So at the beginning of the day, that's just another thing I kind of stole, because I thought, oh my God, these are brutal. So I had the team start doing it, and she's out of Canada, just this girl that, but boy, she puts her, but obviously she's using a lot lighter weight. So we use 30 or 40 pounds on some of this, and we're doing reverse lunges, but they're all compound exercises that she does, and it's a killer. Right, we're doing jumping jacks with a dumbbell, and of course maybe she's using 5 and we're using 25 or 30. But just you can set a tone for those workouts and make them a lot tougher depending on the weight that you're going to use. So that's what I do to try to eat healthy. So
nice.
Yeah. I got little kids. I got to stick around for a while.
Yeah.
So
Heck yeah.
Coach, what are you listening to right now? Music, podcasts, audiobooks? Are you reading anything?
Not reading anything right now. I look I look at a lot of or not podcasts, but I look at a lot of YouTube. I look at a lot of YouTube stuff, and the last one I saw was the coach from Alabama football. I'm losing it. Head coach of Alabama.
You're not getting any help from us, Coach. Sorry.
Nick Saban. Nick Saban has a like a motivational video that I listen to, and I go, that was really good. I'll listen to those two. I got a one trail. I walk my dog through the woods here. There's a little trail, goes about a mile, and I'll listen to different motivational videos on YouTube. I'll try to pull those up. Music wise, I'm all over the place. I like country music. I like I'm not crazy about some of the stuff my guys listen to in the practice room right now, but I kind of more into the 80s stuff. So my other coach, Zach Schaefer, who just started here, he'll throw in his 80s music before they get there. So it's pretty cool,
Yeah, it's almost like you have to have a wrestle off for who gets to plug in their iPhone.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of times I'll listen to the lyrics of the words. I say, boy, that's a beautiful message, guys. That's just great, or I'll kid with them, and then they'll go over and kind of shut it down. But coach, it's just the beat. It's not the words that we listen to, and so it's so guys, we're in a church. Come on, right? We're working working on a church gymnasium over here,
Yeah, that's a good reminder too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Coach, last one for you. You've traveled, you've lived in many places. I know you're a very busy guy. You've got 2 programs you're running and building. You've got 4 boys that you're running after. You got 1 you're teaching wrestling. If at any time, maybe when you're on YouTube and you're not doing a HIIT workout or listening to some motivational stuff, do you dabble with conspiracy theories? Do you have a favorite one? Is it something that you ever find yourself on YouTube looking anything up like that?
Yeah, I guess I like a lot of us, once the COVID broke out, right? You're looking for a lot of answers there. What to believe and what not to believe, and so I think I did a lot of research as far as what I should be listening to. As far as do I get vaccinated? Do I not get vaccinated? Do I And I think that's probably I decided, okay, I have a father-in-law who's a doctor, and I have my sister's boyfriend, a doctor. I just kind of went with what the information I'd gotten from them, but I did, and I'm vaccinated, so that tells you. But as far as that goes, yeah, not much into conspiracy theories. I'm not a black and white guy either, but I just, I'm much into,
no Sasquatch in any of your travels.
I got one in the backyard. I was driving through Memphis last summer, and you ever see those Sasquatches on the side of the road? You ever see those big metal? Well, I'm driving by. I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to have one of those, because I'm backed up to a bunch of woods right here. So I had to go 10 miles down, come back 10 miles to get the thing. My buddy was like, are you kidding me? Because we're just driving. We're driving some stuff that I left in Oklahoma that we went to get, right? And so I go and I get it. It's really cool. It's about 6 foot tall. I'm going to stick it in my backyard, and when the kids wake up, they're going to see it. So I come out with it, and he's not in the truck. Where the heck is he? Right? He brought one too, right? So he came out with one. Well, I'm going to get one too, so we stuck it in. But yeah, I got Bigfoot in the backyard right here.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Coach,
I've hunted for Bigfoot. I used to watch those movies, Legend of Boggy Creek, and all those movies. I love those movies.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love it. Coach, thank you so much for your time tonight. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, and we'll be rooting for Presbyterian and the gang moving forward. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I'm rooting for Airey Bros Radio. This was awesome.
Thanks, Coach. We appreciate
a lot of fun
you.
talking to you guys. Okay,
Yeah.
anytime.
Have a great holiday. Enjoy the time with the family, and yeah, good luck with the oldest son with wrestling and the cross country and the running and all that stuff.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right,
and thanks for having me on. This
Absolutely.
was fun.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Okay.
Good
Thanks,
night.
guys.
Night.
Okay. Good night.